What's up, guys? I hope you're well. Today we're checking out why racing drivers work together. Ooh, let's get into it. Bet they're going to talk about different types of racing.
Racing drivers use this cheeky trick to go faster, literally pushing the car in front. And it can have mixed results. Done right, and you can gain up to 20 miles an hour on everyone else in the race and push your way forward. Do it wrong and you could be heading at 90 degrees into a barrier. So how and why do the drivers do this? And also, why doesn't it happen in Formula One? Well, there is one very specific reason. So let me explain. Now, we already know slipstreaming. When a car pushes through the air, you get a high pressure area at the front of the car where the air has to slow and change direction, and a low pressure area at the rear where the air becomes turbulent and forms a sort of vacuum behind the car, pulling it backwards. And the sum of that means that you get drag pushing back on the car. We get that. Now, when you're the following car, if you get within a certain distance, you begin to shed most of that frontal area of high pressure, reducing your drag and allowing your car to accelerate. And in Formula One and single-seat racing, we're very used to drivers using this to gain speed and slingshot past another car. But this often doesn't work in NASCAR, because when the cars are close together, the leading car can also go faster. Yeah, so when you have a car right behind another, the trailing car's nose will be negating the low pressure area you would normally have. This means that the leading car also loses drag and can maintain a higher speed as well. So if you do try to slingshot past another car, it's very likely you're just going to get past again. So this is where bump drafting comes in. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. Now, we all have our own challenges, and sometimes we all need someone to talk to. That's why this part of the video is in paid partnership with BetterHelp. BetterHelp, a new therapist at no additional /drive. Speedways like Daytona or Talladega lend themselves to cars working together to gain positions.
Slingshot engaged.
Because in these trains of cars, it's hard to make overtakes unless you are with another car. So they actually push the car in front. So whilst the car behind can help the leading car shed drag, the car behind is still capable of a higher speed than the car in front. So you can either play it safe and lift off, using the aero benefits to gain a bit of speed and maybe save some fuel, or you can push them. During most of the race, the risk of pushing the car in front probably isn't worth it. So the cars tend to get as close as possible without actually hitting the car in front. But at the end of the race, they absolutely send it. Really, bump drafting is just a controlled collision. The trailing car uses the slipstream effect to gain the speed before hitting the car in front, transferring momentum and allowing them to do the same again, allowing the car in front to pick up speed. Just look at this internal shot of Joey Logano getting a bump from behind, and it's quite a hit. Now, of course, this can be very risky, but we'll get into that a bit later. The important thing to know, though, is that this happens in almost all motorsport. I learned to bump draft in karting when I was 7 years old, and often in those championships there were upwards of 30 karts on the circuit, and the starts were very busy. And with karts that all had the same engine, the racing was obviously very close, so you would push one another to try and break the rest of the field. Now, this is all well and good on the straights, but you do have to avoid pushing the car in front in the braking zone, as obviously that can go very wrong. You also sometimes see it in Formula cars as well. Just look at this clip from an F3 race. The driver identifies that there's no way around, and so decides to push the car in front. Just look at this. He pushes his nose right on the central section of the car in front, on the crash structure. And these cars are good for this, as they have a high nose to meet the crash structure on the car in front. But if we let this play, the car in front makes a mistake. They don't really account for the extra speed that the bump has given them, and they go straight on. Then just look at this from Monza in a GP3 car. Da Costa makes a mistake. Another car comes past, and to gain on the cars in front, he pushes him along. They really gain on the pack in front. Also, we love a bit of commentary from Will Buxton.
Unbelievable! Proper bump drafting from Antonio Felix da Costa.
Now, the race in which I did the most bump drafting was in the 25-hour Fun Cup race at Spa. These are actually tubular chassis racing cars. They just look like
25 hours?
And while they're not quick, they are incredibly fun to drive. I raced here with some mates, and it's perhaps one of the most fun races I've ever done. Anyway, the slipstream is massive, and you could gain upwards of 2 seconds a lap. And so throughout the day and night of the race, we would often get in trains of 3 or more cars, pushing each other in a line down down the Kemmel Straight. It was absolutely mad, and once you all locked in, you would build up so much speed, all because the train has way less drag and 5 or 6 times the engine power. It really made sense to work together in this race, and you could gain up to 30 seconds or so over a stint if you worked with the right people.
Wow.
Also, the cars absolutely suited it. They had bumpers that allowed for pushing, they're not very aerodynamic, and the straights are so long and you're at top speed just past Eau Rouge. And of course, at times it got sketchy. In fact, the Americans have a saying, never push the pusher, because you can unsettle the cars and easily spin out.
Yeah.
And if you're in the middle of the train, it would get really weird. So you had to be so precise when pushing someone not to spin them out.
Yep.
Then, at the end of the straight, you would all have to detach before the braking zone to make sure you don't push one another off. So you just release the throttle, sit back a little bit, and then get on the brakes.
Yeah.
It was absolutely hilarious. Now, as I mentioned, while you can gain time, this is a risky move. You're having a controlled collision with another car, but
Yeah.
it can get out of hand.
Oh,
and we've seen it
there
a lot
went
in
Jimmy
NASCAR
Johnson.
where drivers
Ooh.
push at the wrong time. For example, it's a bad idea to push another car on the corner of an oval, because if you're in the turn and on the same racing line, you'll push at a slight angle. And of course, the car in front is right on the limit of grip, so any kind of tap will send them sideways. We've seen this so much in NASCAR over the
Yeah.
years that for some of the super speedway races, NASCAR actually banned bump drafting, meaning that you could only help the car in front by driving just behind them. And bump drafting only works with the right cars. NASCAR Cup cars have specially designed crash structures on the front and rear of the cars that are there for safety, but do allow for bump drafting. Now, what if the cars aren't designed for it? Well, Max and Lando actually found out in a sim race. Just take a look at this. Lando goes to work with Max at Daytona, pushing him, and the nose of the Porsche lifts the rear of Max's car.
Whoa!
And basically, it just spins Max out,
Oh,
splitting
no.
him into the barrier.
I'm so sorry, Max. Max is swearing? Yeah, I'm sure he is. Controversial win. But I'm taking it.
And that's what would happen if you tried this in Formula One. The front wings are so low and wide that you just hit the rear tyres and the diffuser of the car in front. This means, of course, that you would lose your wing, and it's just not worth it.
Yep.
Also, these larger packs don't often happen in Formula One. Normally, it makes more sense to make the overtake than push the car in front.
Yeah.
Incidentally, in that sim clip, Lando actually got a penalty for that move, but managed to argue against it before winning the race. Speaking of which, Max is an absolute weapon in the sim. Check out this video where we explain how. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Racing
That was interesting. Yeah. I just wonder how they're going to handle with NASCAR, but yeah, I mean Talladega, Daytona, and now Atlanta. Those are definitely bump draft tracks. I mean, was it last month? Maybe the month before. At Talladega, there's 3 freaking rows of pushing. It was insane. But this video is really cool. I enjoyed it. With that being said, I want to thank you all for watching. Stay safe, and don't forget to wash your hands. Bye.